Lovely starshine lights my way to bed. Magic rainbows glisten in my head. Just like a child I live in Wonderland. All my dreams are coming true.
And welcome to Handmade by Ditsy Tulip. I'm Mal, for those of you that don't know me already, and welcome to my channel. So today's video, in fact, I thought I'd already posted this video, but it seems that I'd never even recorded it, never mind posted it. So this is to tell you all about the Helen's Closet York pinafore, which has turned out to be my favourite pinafore dress. And so far I've made 4 versions, so I'm going to share each of those with you today, and I'll share them in order because you'll kind of see how it's gone through season to season as I've made them. So Helen's Closet launched this pattern, it was back in summertime, early summer if I recall, and there's been quite a few hacks that have been added to Helen's website, and there's also been an expansion pack added as well to turn it into a pinafore. Not a pinafore, it is a pinafore, a apron. So one of kind of the aprons which cross over at the back. So be sure to check those out. If I can, I will add some screenshot in of the website and things. However, my computer is broken and I can't afford to replace it at the moment. So I'm having to do my video editing on iPad, and I'm not quite sure what I can and what I can't do yet on the app that I'm using. So if I can insert bits of video and photos and stuff, I will. If they don't appear, that's because I haven't been able to work out how to do it yet. So yeah, the versions that I've made are 4 different versions. The first one, I think you've actually seen a snippet of this when I've gone through the My Body Model app video. I think that's where I talked about it, or it may have been the crafting box because I made it from the contents of the June crafting box. So this was the first version that I made. It's made from a lightweight linen fabric. So this one was made for kind of spring, summer, although I will still wear it during autumn, winter, layered over turtleneck sweater type things like what I'm wearing now. I'm not quite sure whether this will stick to tight without a slip, so I do need to try that. So the pattern has different neckline options. You've got like a super low neckline, like the ones I've made, or you've got one that's got a higher neck as well. I actually really like this lower neckline because I think it looks good where you're wearing blouses and you can have a bow on show and things like that. So on all my versions I've gone for this lower neckline because I think well, it's just my favourite. So yeah, this is the first version made from linen, and you've got these lovely deep pockets. They are super deep, which are great as well, and you actually finish this with bias binding. So I'm just going to come in closer and show you. So I made my own bias binding for this version from some Liberty of London fabric. So yeah, it really adds a nice detail on the inside. And you can see on the pockets, I added a bit of rip-rack on the top. Which just gives it that extra little detail. So that's version 1, and to be honest, after I'd made this version I got hooked and knew I definitely wanted to make more. I will insert some photos as I go of the different versions, hopefully being worn in different ways. The second version is this, it's really more of a summer one, for sure this one because of the colour, but this is a super bright pink cord, like a fine cord, baby cord I think you call it, version that I made, but I did this one a little bit different because I interlined it with like just a satin lining, but I finished the bias binding on the outside of this one rather than on the inside. So let me just bring this one in and show you. So yeah, you can see it's interlined, and it's Liberty of London bias binding that I've made again myself, and that's finished it all around the neck and the armholes, and then I did also put some on the edge of the pocket. There you go. So that was version 2. Just in case anybody's not familiar with the difference between interlining and lining, when you interline something, you actually attach the lining and the main fabric together before you sew it. So it's like the lining and the main fabric is one piece of fabric. So the best way to do that is to hand stitch, cut it out in both pattern pieces, and then put them wrong side to wrong side, and then use a running stitch, hand stitch, just to tack them together, and then work with it like it's one piece of fabric. So I think it really does help to give fabric real good structure, and it tends to stop with some creasing as well, depending on what fabric that you interline it with. So that was version number 2. Version number 3 is a denim version. So again, I've got the scoop neck, I've got the bias binding finish on the inside, which I'll show you in a second, and I've got the super deep pockets. So let's just show you this one. So this one again is finished with handmade bias binding from a Liberty cotton fabric. What I did on the pockets on this one is I used top stitch thread to sorry, really didn't want to focus there. So yeah, I've used orange top stitch thread to give it kind of that traditional denim look. So that was version 3. This pattern has made me fall in love with doing bias binding. I used to absolutely hate it because it never used to work out that great. But if you follow Helen's instructions, I think the key thing that she does, which I'd not done before, is she understitches the bias binding before you kind of fold it over onto the wrong side of the fabric. And that just really helps to keep it even and to give you that really neat finish around the edge, and also ensures that you can't see any of the bias binding showing on the right side of the garment. So highly recommend checking out the instructions on this pattern for how to do bias binding. The final version that I've made is for this month's Minerva Crafts blogger network post, and this one is made from this absolutely gorgeous 100% wool plaid fabric. I've interlined this one again, so again I'll bring it in close in a second to show you, and I've got the super deep pockets, but I've put them on a different angle just to make them stand out. Now, I did make a mistake on this one, which was really obvious to me and really bugged me, so I had to do something to fix it. I'll show you the back of the dress because that will help you to see what I mean. So when I was cutting out this fabric, I was making sure that I'd got the pattern all matching up at the side seams. But what I didn't do is pay attention to where I'd got the fabric laying for the centre. And if you can see on the back there, what I did is I used this black line here as the centre point, whereas what I should have done is used the centre point of that block there so that it was even either side. and on the front it was really noticeable because it looked really off centre between the pockets. So I had to wrap my brain and think about, oh my God, what have I done? I've really messed up absolutely super quality fabric. So I needed to think of something which would help to resolve that. And what I ended up doing is I've got a little bit of remnants left of the fabric. And what I did is I cut a fake button placket and I've run that all the way down the centre. So the centre point now looks better. It's still obviously a bit off because one side the line is thicker than the other just because of how I had to lay the fake button placket on. And you can see as well, obviously I've got a wide gap that side and a small gap that side, but I thought it really helped to take your eyes off the issue by adding that. And then to make it even less noticeable, I've added some buttons, like a double-breasted effect buttons on the front as well. So let me bring this in a little bit closer. So this one isn't perfect because as I say, I've had to kind of try and resolve issues as I've sewn it, but I think it's important to share with you when things go wrong as well, because they do go wrong for everybody. You know, none of us are perfect and sometimes you have to make mistakes to learn from them. So let me just bring this in and show you. So you can see again I've interlined this with this lovely, I think it is just a lining fabric really, but it's got nice paisley. I used shop bought bias binding this time because I didn't have any remnants of fabrics which would match. So that's the bias binding. So then the button placket that I've added, so you can see just about where I've had to stitch it on there. So this line here is wider than this line, and you've got a wide gap that side and a narrower gap that side, but it's certainly better than how it was. I'll just show you. And if I show you the buttons, so these are more of the lovely Wim Wam ceramic buttons, and I didn't have enough in the same colour. I had some grey and some blue, so what I've done is I've gone grey, blue, grey and blue. And you can see I've also had to kind of put this placket on in two separate parts, because initially I just put a half button placket on, but then I still wasn't happy with how it looked because you could still see it looked really odd and off centre between the two pockets. So I had to extend it down further, which is why you've got the gap, the join there that you can see. So that's version number 4. I'm actually really pleased with how this turned out. It looks great layered on top of the turtleneck sweaters. So again, I'll insert some pictures hopefully so you can see what it's like being worn, but I was really pleased with the outcome. I wish, you know, I hadn't got the issue with the fabric, but I'll learn from that, and next time I'm working with plaid I'll make sure for definite that I'm lining up the correct centre point as well. And that is it. That's what I wanted to share with you today. So have a wonderful week, whatever you're up to, and I will see you very soon. Bye.
Just like a prisoner when his sentence ends, all my dreams are coming true.